Yeah, many thanks for staying with us. Glad to know you are still there. You're still watching New Dawn right here on the People's Tele. And you are on to the first first discussion segment of the show this morning, where we shall be exploring the second batch of ministerial nominees sent to the Senate by President BOLA TINUBU. The President had initially sent a list of 28 ministers last Thursday, and now we're talking about additional 19 names, making a total of 47 ministerial nominees. And we have former governors, former senators in this list, and some technocrats. So I want to put this into perspective. We have two gentlemen. One is in the studio, while the other is joining us via Zoom. And welcome to the show, Mr. Abeokuta, a public affairs analyst and IT expert. You're welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, thanks for coming. And also via Zoom is Barrister Kehinde Bamiwola, of course, a legal practitioner. Welcome to the show, Barrister.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning, everyone, and viewers. Nice to join you live on this program.
Thanks for joining us, Barrister Kehinde Bamiwola. Okay, let me start with Mr. Abeokuta. 47 ministerial nominees. We've always known the president, a man who has a knack for building a team, a team of technocrats, a team of politicians that could hit the ground running. Now, from the names, you've seen 47 names. Screening is ongoing in the Senate. So what's your view? Do you have high hopes looking at these names?
Yes, thank you for having me once again. I think this is more like a public discourse since the time that we've had the takeoff process of this ministerial nominees, what do you call it? Is it interview? What do you call it?
Yeah,
screening at the National Assembly. It's more of it's a mixed reaction for me personally, because it's like we are still going back into the traditional setting of bringing people on board to serve as ministers, same way we've had so far since the inception of this Fourth Republic. We are talking of a situation whereby every standing president sends the names to the House of Assembly without portfolios. So that has been a loggerhead around the selection process, the screening process, and even their productivity at the end of the day. I will cite an example, like a scenario where, let's take for example, this media station wants to recruit, and you just put out your advert out. In the context of your advert, you didn't specify the specific roles. So what do you expect? You get to see different people with different portfolio, different credentials. You find artisans, you find professors, and that is on the one side. On the other side of the whole show, on your first day of your screening of interview here in the station, you have your team of like panel of judges, and you don't really have rubrics to attend to each of these interviewees. So what do you expect? You will not be surprised when you begin to hear, the kind of questions relating to what did you eat last night? Why did your clothes, looking this way? Like all of these primordial questions, because there was no rubric in the first place. The entire populace or the entire public do not know who is getting what. So the interview, the screening process is, to me, it's more like it doesn't set the ball rolling for any willing administration. Of course, it behoves on the incumbent president to understand who he would like to, put into what portfolio or position at the end. But that is the exact stage where the public wants to hear what each of these ministers want to do. So, and in that case, you don't have specific questions that relate to critical sectors of the economy that we need to know. We don't know who is taking what at the end of the day. Then you get to hear primordial questions and questions. To me, I see nothing in that screening process.
But I mean, the CV is there.
Yes,
We could
yeah, the
guess
CV is there. Thank you. Because that can only be waived when there are positions for certain portfolios, just like in the private management sector. If you are recruiting a typical admin officer for the first entry grade level, you can assume that he can work in any sector. But somebody that will stand to speak on behalf of president, of course, we must know the specifics. So yeah, I understand that they have their CVs, but to what extent can each of these legislators ascribe to the exact portfolio that such ministerial nominee will get at the end of the day? What if, at the discretion of the president, he feels, okay, I'm not moving this person to power, let me move him to security, and we have interrogated him along the power sector. So I will not be surprised if we get to see people struggling when they get to that ministerial offices. And to balance it, usually we do have people, because there have been, I'm sorry to diverge further, there have been like uproar around reactions about how some of these ministerial nominees have been performing. From the context of human endeavor, at the end of the day, we do have, in most cases, we do have some of these less performing ministers during screening performing well when they eventually get to the office. So it's a way to balance the whole situation. But by and large, I don't think I'm impressed in the screening process.
Okay.
But the list, the second list, what was your reaction when you saw the list, the names of the people there?
Oh, thank you. It's also a mixed reaction because at the same time, I must give it to the president in that regard, because it's a way of balancing between technocracy and bureaucracy, what have you. Like in the case of where we have experienced politicians with technocrats that are coming on board. Yeah, that is fine. That is positive. Let's give it that swing. But I think I'll have to reserve my comment, because my previous submission will actually tend to follow suit in that your position. I mean your question about they are robust CVs. They are new set of people. I know one of them that belongs to our sector, Bosun Tijani. Of course, he has been doing well in the private sector. And my personal reservation about that over the time since Fourth Republic has always been that we have many people in the private sector that have struggled to get into the political space, but they get to perform to our less expectation. So that is my fear too. For private sector, Bosun Tijani would do well, but I'm a bit curious or anxious on how to navigate the political terrain. This is public sector engagement. It's quite different from private sector. We've had series of examples of some of our people, experts in the private sector, who had joined the public space or political space, even at the local level or the state level, and they had to leave at one time because the system is already frustrating.
Barrister Bariwala, good morning.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning.
Yeah, glad to have you join us.
Thank you very much.
Now, he has talked about his own reaction to, towards the second list. Let's hear from you. The second ministerial list presented to the Senate by the President.
Can you come again? I did not hear you well.
Okay, I said let's get a reaction to the second ministerial list.
Well, thank you very much. I think I have mixed feeling this morning because some of the things that I checked when I saw the ministerial list was to raise a question. The people coming on board, what are the antecedents? Okay, what have they achieved?
Okay, it seems.
Okay.
I'm afraid I don't want to preempt them, but my fear is that I just hope that we are not going to be disappointed by the names that I saw. Because somebody who left it, who used 8 years in a state, and the security of that state was messed up, nothing could be done. I want to be specific, in Kaduna State, and he's now coming on board again as a minister. When he was the FCT minister, the masses, the poor, all in the name of enforcing the Abuja master plan, people suffered in his hand. And when he became governor, I don't want to sound negative. Let it not appear that I'm not seeing the positive aspect of some of them. So what did he achieve? That is one. Another thing that I'll say is that the list, to me, I may be wrong, is like a compensatory list to compensate President TINUBU'S loyalists or supporters. Let me start on that ground, because some of them, I'm afraid, I was expecting that, yes, I know politicians will be there, but I was expecting a situation in which, let me borrow the word used by my friend on this program with me, a technocrat, that it will be something maybe 60-40, 60% of politicians, then 40% of technocrats, people who have nothing to do with politics, bringing them from their fields of expertise to come and make contribution to their fatherland. I know that when Okonjo-Iweala was brought in that time, she wasn't a member of any political party. I was expecting President Tinubu to bring in experts and leave political compensation, bring in the likes of Wiki and the likes of them. Let me focus on an area where I expect much, which my friend there has touched. Bringing the list, good. What are they going to the National Assembly to do? They use the word screening. Are they going to be screened? Are they facing screening? Or they are going there just for celebration, take a bow and go? How many probing questions that will have to do with their competence that will be put to them? How many probing questions that will have to do with what do they have in their coffer? What do they have in their upstairs that they are going to contribute to the plight of Nigerians generally? We are talking about subsidy removal now. We are talking about other things that are, in fact, biting hard on Nigerians. What are they going to do? What are they going to contribute? Because to me, majority of the governors who have spent 8 years in their state now coming to handle ministerial appointment as ministers, I would be expecting the National Assembly to check them very well, and anybody who has questions to answer as per how the funds allocated to their states were handled, as per projects that they did in their states, as per what they have for education, health, and what have you, should be screened out. But the thing is that it is very, very hard for any ministerial nominee, or even come to the state level, any commissioner nominee, to go to the State Assembly or National Assembly, and you hear in the news that, oh, so-so person has been screened out. So it's like doing the same thing, routine. Let me use that word, just go there, take your bow, paddy things. So
Barrister Bamiwola, the likes of Dele Alake and Lateef Fagbemi did not have it easy, you know. I think they spent close to more than 45 minutes on Dele Alake, and maybe that could be because of the posts they believe they will get at the end of the day.
Let me tell us this. There is no post office that is lower than the other. Sorry. The presumption is that they are going there as ministers. What Lateef Fagbemi, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, face of Dele Alake? Well, to me, I know Lateef Fagbemi will be equal to the task. But why should it be selective? That is the question that we should address. Why should it be the likes of Dele Alake and Lateef Fagbemi, senior advocate? It should be for everybody. Somebody who is coming on board as the Attorney General of Federation, the #1 lawman of the Federation after the CGN, yes, it's expected that his knowledge of the law should be tested. But look at it this way. Somebody who is coming on board as the Minister of Health or Minister of Education whose children are in abroad, in England, schooling, now coming to the National Assembly for screening, and they will not probe into their family background. Where did you get your degree? Where are your children? Such one will not even consider the plans of the poor Nigeria. For instance, now I will cite 2 instances, which is, I don't want to digress too much. This tuition fee of some of the federal universities, where some of us enjoy almost free education, have been raised skyrocketingly. Now, somebody is coming as Minister of Education, a prof, he should be able to convince the National Assembly, and through the National Assembly, the whole Nigerians, the essence and the philosophy rationale behind increasing the tuition fee. So that's what I expect. Somebody who is coming as a Minister of, for Health, okay, should be able to tell us the reason why the politicians themselves, when they have headache, why should they go to UK? Why should they go to France? Why should they go to other countries? This is what I expect, but I'm afraid it's the usual thing. Come, ask you a question. Anybody who is in their bad book will face fire. And at the end of the day, even with all those questions, they will still escape through. So I'm afraid it's getting to a time in which we should be doing less talk and less see action. I wish them well, but the 9 governors there, I'm particular about the 9 governors in the list. Some of them, with due respect to them, do not merit being enlisted as ministers. I must say this on the air. Some of them, I have nothing personal against anybody. The likes of El Rufai shouldn't be a minister, with due respect. Shouldn't be a minister. What did he do to security situation in Kaduna State? Everybody, you people are current. You are journalists. You are in the media. You know what is happening. Then he will come on board now because he's a loyalist. He's a promoter of PBAT. I'm afraid. I don't want to be over this thing this morning.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bamiwola. Let me switch to Mr. Adeokuta. Yes. No, he talked about technocracy there, and at times, some people also say, okay, what would we even call, technocrats? Dave Umahi, for example. Okay, let me take you back to the last administration. One of the best performing ministers was what's his name? Rotimi Amechi, former governor of Rivers State, former governor of Lagos State, Fashola. So, well, these are politicians in a way. So now that we're seeing 9 former governors in that list, can we really say, oh, these ones may not perform?
Yeah, I think I will still go back to saying that I'm not really, I have my reservations, which I still keep to myself till this morning. Based on what my colleague in the studio, on the virtual side of the studio had said, we will need to understand that politics has always been transactional since 1999, the Fourth Republic. And so I was not really worried about recycling old politicians, citing what happened in Rivers State during that presidential election. We will recall or we will reflect around what has been happening over time. But thanks to social media, thanks to the media, let me put it that way, both traditional and social media, that have really picked up the loopholes that we've been struggling with since Fourth Republic. So the magnitude of how person like a Wiki, delivered Rivers to APC. Since that day, I came to my conclusion that this person wants to be rewarded, because you can't go to that extra miles with all the baggage of violence that we saw there, being marshaled under a sitting government or sitting governor, who is now presumably one of the ministers. Of course, I would not be. I was so surprised if his name he was not put, because we've been managing transactional politics over time. So the issue of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, working with technocrats and making use of a workable team does not arise here. And back to your question about the technocracy of individuals. Yes, when we say someone is a technocrat, there is this local parlance that we always say, jack of all trade, master of none. Politicians we can say politicians are in that context of, set of people with that ideologies of jack of all trades, because that was validated by what Femi Gbajabiamila said in defense of not having portfolios to these ministerial designates, on the ground that you are telling us that, because it's at the discretion of Mr. President to consider changing them afterwards. So what happens if they are? So that's to tell you that politicians are more of jack of all trades, master of none, as against the context you are talking about, technocracy. Who is a technocrat? A technocrat is someone who, at a stretch of, let's say, decades or possibly number of years, substantive years, cognate years, being in a profession or in a field of endeavor or discipline, to have understood the nitty-gritty of that ecosystem, and to have achieved to a certain degree, or at least to a certain degree of achievement that can be weighed side by side in a matter or in a way that can propel economic development.
And some of them were professionals before they delved into politics.
Thank you very much. To what extent have they practiced as professionals? I will cite Bukola Saraki on this program. There was one of these informal discussion among politicians during the time he was the Senate president. I think, it's Senate president. He was saying he practiced for just 6 months as a medical doctor before joining politics. So what line of experience or what solid experience can we say 6-month timeline of experience is enough to manage economic development or the broader or the macro level as the case of Nigeria is concerned in the area of health sector? So that submission to me is not really well covered.
But it's also not even with technocrats. A technocrat could be overwhelmed with the burden in the ministry and all of that. So
that's why we say we have bureaucracy in the system and we have public officers. That's why we have public officers in the ministry to guide and monitor the decisions made by all these technocrats, whether politician or technocrat. So that doesn't apply to this. But we are talking about the man at the helm of affairs of the health sector, power sector, tourism sector. We want to see what has happened when he couldn't have access to public money. How has he managed few resources at his disposal, and what has been the result over time before we now entrust that public office where he will have access to billions of call it whatever currency. So we're talking about management skill here. So it is so hard to meddle with struggling to say some politicians were actually technocrats. To what extent have they achieved in their field of endeavor?
But either technocrat, be ye a technocrat or a politician and what have you, the support they get from the president equally matters. Mr. Abamiwola, did you hear that? I said either as technocrats or as politicians, the support they get from Mr. President matters a lot.
I will agree with you partially, in the sense that the first support is that they are very, very lucky to be nominated as ministerial nominees. That's number one support. However, independently, somebody should be able, I've nominated the what you have. Somebody should be able to at least defend that nomination or that office. Well, we can't rule that out because a minister, the Nigerian system is like master-servant relationship. You are there, and then if I'm not dancing to your tune, Okay, the next thing is that he will be shown the way out. However, let me just say something over what my friend has said there. The issue is this. We are talking about over 200 million people in Nigeria, and somebody is now looking at the interest of a particular person who actually gave support when the electioneering and what have you was ongoing. So to me, if we want development in this country, if you want growth in this country, because there is a dichotomy between growth and development, there are certain things that we need to jettison. Certain things must be jettisoned. Some of them is this over political, what should I call it, loyalism, okay, nepotism. So issues like, oh, it's my kinsman, let us always look for round peg in round hole, or square peg in square hole. The issue is this. I will be looking at these people immediately, you know, I can bet you 99% of them will be given the offices. I will be looking at a situation in which there will be a paradigm shift in what we have in Nigeria, what we used to do. Because, well, whether we like it or not, whether we accept it or not, there is fire on the mountain as far as the economy of this country is concerned. So if they are coming to do what others have been doing, PMB, former President Muhammadu Buhari, has gone with all his ministers and the likes of even the so-called technocrats in quote, Chris Ngige, and all of them who are both equally politicians, and they have gone. What have they done to better the situation of Nigerians? Because to me, if they are coming on board and we are not going to experience something meaningful. Now, look at this. How much naira is to a server now? Server that they spend in Benin Republic. Our president was there 3 days ago to celebrate their 63rd independence with them. How much is naira to dollar to naira? Pound sterling. This economy is crashing. It's going down. So the people coming on board, what are they going to do? Look at the situation now. The former CBN governor, AHMED, and one old mama jokingly on social media calling him Ofokebi. Now, with all this policy and what have you, look at what we are facing now. Nigerians suffer under this cashless policy and a change of naira, and we are still spending the old naira. For God's sake, the universal concepts that are applicable to economics, to political economy and what have you, are we not using the same in Nigeria here? Why are our things so different? The issue is that, let me give a backup. Majority of the people that are even in politics now, who were technocrats before, because I love the clauses and the terms used by my friend there. He analyzed by saying over a period of time before the word technocrat can be used for someone. You people are into the media and you are experts in your field now. If you leave what you are doing now, and God forbid, somebody says, okay, I'm going into business because I love the million. After 10 years, the anchors of this program, you are now brought, they now bring you on board to come and be the commissioner for whether communication or information or anything. You need a retreat. You need to go back and see what you have left for a period of so time. The issue is that many of our people are disconnected from the reality on ground in Nigeria. Many, and let us call a spade a spade. Many of them do not know the plights of the people. Go to their wards, somebody was president in this country, I won't mention him, for 6 years, and he refused to construct road in his own village. Some of these people, go to their ward, what have they contributed to merit being in the ministerial list? What have they done to their people?
Barrister Bamiwala, I want to talk about Lateef Fagbemi, SAN. During the screening, he suggested that EFCC and ICPC should be merged. What's your take on that?
I want to agree with him in totality. In totality. Because over duplication of agencies and what have you. ICPC, now, look at it. We call it independent what? Independent ICPC. I think something on corruption too. Okay, I don't want to go into the acronyms. On corruption, EFCC, Economic and Financial Crime Commission. Okay, ICPC to independent crime and something commission too. If you look at the two, there is corruption there. What are they doing separately? We are wasting. You see, the cost of government in Nigeria is just too high. Cost of maintaining something. You see, ICPC and EFCC dealing with the same thing. And don't forget, even before the creation of EFCC, police too, Nigerian police, we have the criminal code that addresses all crimes, including corruption. Why doing this, creating more? And the same thing now is even applicable to paramilitary. In Ogun State alone, you will see SOSE, okay? You will see, what do they call this one? The equivalent of LASMA in Ogun State. Trace, you will see trace. See this, everybody coming. Why do we like just duplicating things? I want to agree with him that ICPC, okay, and EFCC should be merged together. In fact, merging them together, their law should be reviewed. Any of the law that has to do with what the functions of police, okay, have covered already, should be removed and be left to police. But the issue is that when you have the police and they are not doing what they're supposed to do, I just wish that the present IG will cause a paradigm shift. Okay, then you'll be thinking of looking for other agencies that will do what they're supposed to do. I agree with Lateef Fagbemi.
Barrister, okay.
To be merged together.
Yeah, you are from the legal sector, and well, looking at that list, Lateef Fagbemi could be regarded as a technocrat. At least he's skilled in what he does. And well, Mr. Abeokuta, there's one Bosun Tijani from the tech sector, also a technocrat. And we have other technocrats. Beta Hedu could also be regarded in a way as a technocrat. We have Wale Edo, Ali, Pate, and a few others. But how will you describe the quality of these technocrats?
Well, to me, I just pray that the system will not shock them. I know Lateef Fagbemi, senior advocate of Nigeria, very well, and the likes of others that you mentioned. Some of you may know them, but well, I'm not a praise singer. From his antecedents, it's equal to the tax. He's a technocrat to the core. And then when you talk about law, which is, of course, if he becomes the Attorney General of Federation, we should be thinking of having a lot of law reforms within, a lot of law reform. I must tell you that even our law, I'm from the legal aspect, even on some of our laws, we need to reform. Some of them are there and they are not doing anything. For instance, under the criminal code, are you aware that it's even a crime, for you to bury your relative, maybe your old father or your own mother, in your house, in the front of your house? Okay, is a
Okay, I will try to secure.
Relative. And nobody is enforcing such law. Nobody is enforcing it, such law. What are they doing? We have another law called bigamy. Bigamy. Anybody who marries.
Okay, well, we're trying to reestablish.
Under press. Such many people have been convicted in Nigeria. So I'm expecting law reform. So many of them that are technocrats, when they come aboard, let the system allow them to do what will help this country. Because my fear is that the system may shock them. The system may shock them. They may not be allowed to function well in the areas that we even acknowledge that they are technocrats.
Okay, yeah, many thanks. Now, back to Mr. Abeokuta. We have key ministries, whether we like it or not. When we talk about finance, health,
education.
works, education, and a few ones. These are key ministries. And now we have technocrats. Well, we are waiting after the screening, then the president will attach, will give them portfolio. I mean, many Nigerians want to see more technocrats in some of these key ministries, and perhaps not politicians.
Yes, we should not also forget that Mr. President has announced that through the Chief of Staff, that's Femi, that new ministries will be created. That is, there's going to be like a critical restructuring of our ministries. Some will be retained, like the ones you've mentioned, while some will be merged by the submission of my colleague, and while some will be created. So we are going to have like a mix of, technocrats and politicians manning each of these ministries. So still on what we are talking about, this particular context of systems, our own institutional system, choking these technocrats. It was exactly what I was reflecting around last night about Bosunti Jani, on the ground that I hope the system will not frustrate this guy. Because in the private sector, within hours you get things done. If you want to move from here to Togo or US or Canada within 72 hours, you get it done because you have your system in place. It is easier to track KPIs and what have you. Now, he's getting into a system that is bureaucratic, that is more complex, whereby ordinary a memo of 200,000 naira can take 6 months on the table of Mr. Governor or Mr. President on account of ceremonial functions here and there. So, all of this, lacuna that we're talking about constitutes to productivity level, which at the end of the day may likely frustrate all these technocrats. So as much as Mr. President is trying to look forward to have technocrats in these ministries, we should try and whittle down the bureaucracy level of our governance at all levels, because they didn't grow up in the line of bureaucracy. So pulling them into that system and forcing them to bring the best out of them to be managed with the bureaucracy. Don't forget, we have, somebody has even said it, civil servants are more corrupt than politicians. I don't know, I have never gone into research around that, but what I can say...
Well, you may not be proof.
so I can tell you that...
You cannot say that categorically.
You can't say that because I do not have a proof.
You don't have a proof.
I do not have a proof.
Yes.
But on some informal occasions, we've had cases whereby not even on formal occasions, it's something that is established. When technocrats and politicians get back to these ministries, these civil servants will be the ones they will come, they will have meetings with, like Yoruba balance, it will shame me. So that alone is enough to tell us what should happen next. God, this is how we've been doing it. This is what has been happening. And we've had several cases whereby a technocrat or a politician insists that, no, this is how I want this thing done. And the entire bureaucracy of the whole thing say, hey, don't worry, continue doing it. I was a former public sector person, so I know what happens. So I'm not indicting the public sector, but this is like a bureaucracy, whereby a memo or a file can stay in one office for the next 6 months or 1 year. And at that time, we will now be lampooning all these technocrats and politicians that they are not doing.
Let's talk about the nomination by the geopolitical zones. 10 from the northwest, southwest, 9 north central, 8 northeast, 8 south south, 7 southeast, 5. Would you say it is balanced, sort of?
For me personally, I'm not an advocate of sectionalism as far as Nigeria is concerned. So I don't really delve too much attention into that because at the time, because I'm a type that look at Nigerianism or Pan-Africanism in the context of sports. By the time we are selecting our best, look at our Super Falcons. We have never talked about who had come from Southwest or Southeast or South-South. All we wanted is for them to get the trophy. So if we can have that in the spirit of sport, why can't we throw that into governance? I understand the principle of resource sharing and what do you call the marginalization that had been going on. Mm-hmm. But when we take a cursory look at how this has really helped us, whether negative or positive. I think it's better that we, look. I didn't even look into it, into the this regionalism or what have you. We want the best. We want to have the best. If it is a Niger Delta representative that will do well in the power, let him do it. So that's my own position around that.
We have to round off now, but yes, you have your parting shots. Ogun State has 3, ministerial nominees: Waledu, Bosun Tijani, and Ishak, Salako. If I'm not mistaken, I think Ogun State has the highest number of ministerial nominees. What does that portend for the states? Anything really?
They are actually, I don't think they are going there to represent Ogun State. They are actually there to serve the interests of Nigerians. So that still boils down on what my previous submission, that, that shouldn't be like a yardstick to be throwing projects to Ogun State, leaving other states in perjury or in penury rather. So they're actually going there to serve the national interest, not even the state interest. However, being up to 3, I don't even see any condition around it. We can have 7 in a state. We may have 1 in another state. To us, we want a moving country. We want a country that is better for all. So the issue of this regionalism or resource sharing allocation and political infighting here and there, it is my state that got the highest. It doesn't speak. It doesn't translate to national development. If we want to go by that, that's my position.
Okay, Barrister Abamiwola, shortly, because we have to round up this segment, your parting shots.
Well, I just want to congratulate the minister. However, I have one point. As they are there, EFCC, okay, and the Independent Corrupt Practice and Other Related Offences Commission, ICPC, should give us clear notes that these people who have been nominated, they have no questions to answer. So that is what I will say. And finally, in opposition to what my friend said, federal character should reflect, because if there's no federal character, agitations will be there, people will be complaining. So let everybody be represented, both the minority and the majority. Federal character should reflect. Let me congratulate the people from Ogun State too. Let them represent us well. I know they are technocrats. Represent us well and bring the dividend of democracy to the entire nation. Thank you very much.
Okay, many thanks, gentlemen. Mr. Ayodele Odiogbola, public affairs analyst, IT experts, and Barrister Kehinde Abamiwola, a legal practitioner. Many thanks for honoring our invitation on the show this morning. Yes, we round off now, but we'll be back shortly for the second discussion segment. This is where we talk about what's happening in Niger, the coup in Niger, and the proposed intervention by ECOWAS. Stay with us.